Robert comes step-down transformer into secondary school this morning at the different centers to take the pulse of the examination. While she was taking the pulse, it was reported that another student physical private sector gathering at CEO Forum in Abidjan. Top stories. Welcome back. There is in the Douala 5 who have been causing havoc and rolling out for Saleh.
May 13, 2025, when gunshots echoed.
Moto armé jusqu'aux dents.
Je n'ai pas peur pour moi, j'ai peur pour la famille.
3 armed robbers aiming to intimidate residents carried out a violent assault, making away with 998,700 CFA francs and several mobile phones.
Nous sommes surpris qu'il vient encore moins d'un an produit.
The attempt to escape on a motorcycle was short-lived. Alerted to the situation, the Bepanda Gendarmerie responded promptly, intercepting the suspects before they could get far. A shootout ensued, during which 2 of the assailants were wounded. The injured suspects are currently receiving medical treatment under guard, while the third is being detained at the Bepanda Gendarmerie for further investigation. Measures in the
government controls some schools in
a quiet and hitch-free environment welcomes the Secondary Education Minister this Wednesday begun writing English Paper 1 for the Government Common Entrance and Comprehension des textes for the concours.
I'm very pleased to see with me. I've been kept.
Invigilators have been on watch to check examination malpractices in different centers, and this year the examination process has been computerized.
For them, as we've always do these examinations.
The minister made a tour to different examination centers in the Fundi and Mefo-Afamba divisions to take stock of facts and figures of the exam enrollment at the different secretariats.
Joseph and Bonadum. But then the big surprise was that there were too many of them who were absent for the examinations. Morinti.
In these examination centers, government high schools gathered early to verify their names on lists and settle into classrooms, ready with pens in hand. The atmosphere was one of anticipation as pupils prepared to take this crucial step towards secondary education. However, a concerning trend of absenteeism emerged. At Government High School Mongo Joseph, 10 pupils, 7 boys and 3 girls were reported absent. Similar patterns were observed in other examination centers, raising concerns among educators.
61 came. It means that we have 3 who are absent.
Outside the examination halls, under the scorching sun, parents and teachers camped, waiting anxiously for the pupils to finish. Their prayers and hopes were focused on the success of the children in these pivotal to the finish exams. That's why I'm waiting here. In contrast, technical examination centers witnessed a commendable turnout. The regional delegate for secondary education for the littoral lauded the massive participation of candidates, highlighting the importance of these exams as a gateway to.
Very proud of what we are seeing because in a technical school where we are, we see a lot of candidates. It means parents are getting the message that we are sending to them so that they should consider the technical training.
The common entrance examination and concours d'entrée en sixième for the Francophone subsystem remains a critical milestone for pupils transitioning from primary to secondary school.
Well, as well in Baturi, it is a sad memory as a student died while taking part in the preparatory physical education examination. The student, Priscilla Boma, actually died or did not show any sign of illness, but then died along the line. Morinti once more.
A tragic incident occurred in Baturi, East region of Cameroon, where a high school student collapsed and died during a physical education examination. Priska Mike Kogel, a premier art culture German student at Collège Barre, reportedly showed no prior signs of illness before participating in the probatoire general examination. Her sudden death has left the community in shock and mourning.
Puis quand elle a fini, elle a présenté aux membres du jury. Net qu'elle présente un tome. Quand elle tombe maintenant, on le décale de côté.
The incident took place on Monday, May 12, as Priska was completing the gymnastics component of her exam. Witnesses say she collapsed on the track in front of classmates and teachers. Despite immediate transportation to the Batore District Hospital and attempts at resuscitation, she was pronounced dead.
On essaie de la réanimer, elle ne s'est pas réanimée. Elle avalait sa langue. On se réussit à l'hôpital où on nous a annoncé qu'elle est décédée.
The news of her passing quickly spread throughout the town, leaving family, friends, and school officials devastated. An investigation is expected to determine the exact cause of her death. The Ministry of Secondary Education has yet to issue a formal statement. Priska's untimely death has raised concerns about student health screenings and emergency preparedness during national examinations. The community remembers her as a bright and dedicated student whose life was tragically cut short.
Well, very sad indeed, thanks Maureen. And as Cameroon gets up towards the 2025 presidential election, a tidal wave of candidates is threatening to float the fields. Up next is Ntaruke Divine Ramsey Jr., who says it could be a chaotic free for all presidential election.
With Cameroon's 2025 presidential election fast approaching, experts are sounding the alarm about the growing number of people planning to run for president. Some are even joking that by the time the election rolls around, there could be 1,000 candidates, many from small and little-known parties that barely exist on paper. Right now, there is no law stopping anyone from throwing their heart in the ring, but legal battles over who can actually run may soon start to narrow down the list of contenders. At the moment, incumbent Paul Biya has not formally declared his intention to seek a 7th term. And that kind of leaves the door wide open for other candidates to step up. One of them is Maurice Kamto of the Cameroon Renaissance Movement. But Kamto's campaign faces questions about his eligibility since his party doesn't have representatives in the National Assembly or at local councils. Nonetheless, Kamto insists he can still run, pointing to Article 121 of the Electoral Code, which says that only parties with elected officials can nominate candidates. Even though his party doesn't have any representatives in key positions, Kamto's supporters argue that recent additions to his team, like former MP Jean-Michel Nietzsche, mean his party should be eligible. With all these twists and turns, the 2025 election is shaping up to be one of the most unpredictable and probably one of the most crowded Cameroon has ever seen.
Meanwhile, violence in Cameroon's Anglophone regions is once more gaining a spiral of out of control and pushing humanitarian situation to break points. Ntaruke Divine once more comes back as he says that the United Nations Humanitarian Affairs says thousands of people are trapped in relentless conflict.
Violence in Cameroon's northwest and southwest regions is escalating, pushing the humanitarian situation to a breaking point. A report freshly released by the United Nations Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs says since March, thousands have been displaced and vital humanitarian services crippled. On March 11, for example, clashes between armed groups and government forces forced 710 people to flee from Owe village in the southwest region, leaving families scattered in fear. Meantime, cross-border violence is also rising. On March 18, herders from Nigeria attacked Bodnabinge village, displacing 180 people and destroying homes and crops. Elsewhere, civilian movement is severely restricted. The United Nations agency reports that armed groups and military forces alike are manning illegal checkpoints. At least 290 people have had their identification documents seized. And to make matters worse, humanitarian assistance is increasingly hard to come by due to funding cuts. The report warns that the escalating violence and resource shortages currently threaten to overwhelm both the population and relief efforts. It adds that immediate action is needed to restore stability.
And Cameroon's economic ambition is equally taking center stage at the Africa's biggest private sector gathering as Prime Minister, Head of Government, Chief Dr. Joseph John Goute led a strongman delegation to Côte d'Ivoire for the Africa CEO Forum in Abidjan. Details in the following report. Representing President Paul Biya, the Prime Minister joined over 2,000 business leaders and investors from across Africa and beyond under the theme, "Can a new deal between the state and the private sector deliver the continent a winning hand?" Cameroon's delegation was active in policy panels and B2B sessions, positioning the country as a rising trade and investment hub. With GDP growth projected over 4% in 2025 and a diversified economy led by agriculture, energy and mining, Cameroon is gaining tractions amongst regional players.
I'm here at the stand of the port of Kribi, which is also one of those exposing its know-how to the rest of Africa and the world. So we are extremely happy. The intention of this forum is to have Africa leapfrog, as it were. We are seeing that everywhere in the world, now economic nationalism is being installed, protectionism is returning, and so Africa has to take this opportunity to come together and to do things together.
Often called Central Africa's breadbasket, Cameroon is the region's leading exporter of cocoa, timber and oil. It also boasts significant untapped reserves in bauxite and iron ore and is actively implementing business reforms aligned with the African Continental Free Trade Area. Prime Minister Joseph John Goute made it clear Cameroon isn't just attending, it is competing for capital, technology and partnerships. The mission to Abidjan was not ceremonial but strategic, signaling Cameroon's readiness to lead from the front. The Africa CEO Forum, now in its 11th edition, has become a vital platform where deals are struck and Africa's next economic moves are mapped out, with Cameroon stepping confidently in the conversation. And that report draws the curtain for this edition of the news, in which we got information that thousands of students or pupils confronted the government common entrance examination into secondary school. And of course, how a student died during the probatoire examination or physical examination. Lee Piju and her panelists are just right around for the debrief the actuality. From all of us, it's goodbye from me.